What's good, family? Welcome to the Fight Club, where we fight for our lives and help others fight for theirs. Man, we are here to face ourselves, face our fears, and ultimately face God. And I believe today, listen, we are here to identify our fight and initiate our fight. I believe God created everyone with purpose, and we have a tailor-made challenge standing right in front of our purpose. And as we identify our fight, we can develop skills in order to initiate and become overcomers and live in our purpose. My focus is on individuals dealing with mental illness or mental health challenges and substance abuse, right? Want to gain a sense of sobriety, and folks that are going in and out of prison to break those vicious cycles, right? I've been through all three, and it's by the grace of God that I stand before you today. And so this is what we're coming to do. We are overcomers, and we're coming, like I said again, face ourselves, face our fears, and face God. Today, one of the products I want to promote is Picking Up the Pieces to 100 Broken Promises by Ushima Cherry Burks. She's one of the counselors that was at the drug treatment center that I actually graduated from and become a friend, man, doing some awesome things. So most definitely come and support. I'll leave links below where you can get her book, go to her website, and be able to purchase some merchandise also, man. Listen, man, we support each other in this community because we know it's going to take a community for us to be healed and walk in that purpose, right? And so I believe every round, this is round 5. Can you believe it? We made it this far, man. I believe every round is getting a little deeper and a little deeper because I believe that you got to tear away those fig leaves, tear away that fashion, tear away those false pretenses. Sometimes you got to tear away that job, that profession. You got to tear away those looks. You got to tear away. We got to get to the heart of the matter. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And what better way to talk about it than to deal with my own personal story in dealing with mental illness. And so this is round 5 of the Fight Club. And we're here to fight for our lives again and help others fight for theirs. Let's talk about it. My voice is raspy because I've been going in. Come on. It was the hurt that caused me to distance myself from those feelings. My personality began to split around the event of my mother leaving, and I stopped caring about my life. After my dad became aware of our situation, he offered little support, and me and my sister concluded that we were on our own. My depression was beginning to take a turn for the worse. Even though I carried myself like I wasn't even depressed. No one knew it. No one knew. Anybody that was even close to me knew that I suffered from depression. They would always say I was the life of the party or I was super cool. Guess what though? Most people that suffer from depression hide it well. Ain't that the truth? I consider myself to be one of those strong friends, the type that was always there for anyone who needed me. I didn't care much for myself, so I would always try to make someone else's situation better. I was extremely loyal and others looked up to me, but no matter how much love I received from them, it wouldn't quite scratch the surface of all the pain I felt. I mean, if my own blood wouldn't love me, how could my friends? This is a real deficit. Deficiency in amount or quality. A lack or impairment in ability or functional capacity, a disadvantage, a lack or shortage, an impairment or handicap. Having a deficit is like playing from behind. No matter how hard you play, no matter how hard you try, no matter how talented you are, the unhealed hurt keeps you feeling like you'll never catch up. I'll say it like this. Most people live with these feelings, but they're afraid of facing their deepest, darkest, most embarrassing experiences in order to be freed from the reality of living with hurt, pretending to be okay. Fear and doubt. Fear and doubt destroy more dreams than failure ever does. Most people don't live their dreams, they live their fears. This is a quote from Keith Winhold. Most people live their fear. Most people live their insecurities. Most people live their lies, and their lies become more convenient to live than to break free and live the truth. Fear is a mental and spiritual construct that debilitates an individual spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. According to UK-based mindset coaching company Inner Drive, psychologists have identified 5 main things which people's fear of failure will lead to. Number 1, experiencing shame and embarrassment. Number 2, readjusting how you see yourself or uncertainty about oneself. Number 3, having an uncertain future. Number 4, upsetting important others or losing out on future opportunities. And number 5, important others losing interest or losing out on future relationships. As we navigate through this list, let me address what doubt is. Doubt is the call into question the truth, to be uncertain, to lack confidence or distrust. So add self to your doubt and you have an uncertainty, lack of confidence, and distrust for self. This is most definitely a personal downer, which leads to depression and other mental health issues. I agree that we all have the pressure that we have to personally deal with, especially in the business world as an entrepreneur or just being a parent. But there are a few things that we're just going to have to learn how to deal with. It's going to take facing yourself, facing your fears, and facing God. Facing God is to come to the realization that you're ready, right? Ready to deal with the good, the bad, the ugly about yourself. And help will only come to those who admit they need it. So humble yourself. Humble yourself and say, hey, look, that's me. I need it. That's what it took for me. I couldn't pretend no longer. It got to the point where I couldn't pretend no longer. My pain led me to prison. I'm gonna just say it like that. And if you're not in a physical prison, you might be in a mental or spiritual prison. Facing yourself may look like the beginning of dealing with some harsh realities. Scars are visual realities of incidents and reminders of that the past is real. But what happens when these scars are internal, and the only proof of their existence is the emotions you feel when you take a trip down memory lane or face certain situations that remind you of times past. Trauma leaves a residue like a wine stain that is hard to come out. The only problem is the stain is on the soul and it affects and hinders the health of everyday life. Facing your fears is knowing what caused the hurt and being willing to deal with it step by step. It's like knowing that you have to have surgery on the 3rd of May and it's January 21st. Every time you look at the calendar, that date jumps out like a monster from a haunted house. February turns to March, March to April, April to May. Finally, that day arrives and you have to get up, get dressed, head to the hospital. Your anxiety is overwhelming, yet you still go. Once you get to the hospital, you have to check in. Your family reassures you, don't be scared. They call you to the back. You get up and you go through, knees trembling and all, and you're a nervous wreck. But you don't stop right there. No, you head on to the back knowing that the surgery is necessary and it will improve the quality of your life. This is what it is to overcome your fears. Freedom is on the other side of your fears and a better quality of life. Fear is a mental belief that the worst will happen, while faith expects the best possible outcome in any given situation. Hey, we're going to walk by faith and not by sight. And this is how we're going to overcome this thing. Experiencing shame and embarrassment. This is what most people, they are not comfortable talking about. Okay? We run from what's uncomfortable because we're afraid deep down of humiliation. We're afraid of being humiliated. But This is a part of it, because the root word of humiliation is humble. Oh, it's humble. Humble yourself. You can't get help until you humble yourself. And so that sometimes that means that humbling yourself might put you in a humiliating state. But when you humble yourself, the Bible says that guess what? God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. See, it be our pride. Our pride refused to allow us to be in a place where we seem like we're being embarrassed and humiliated. But that's the whole point. That's the whole problem. We build these facades because we don't want to seem like we hurt. We don't want to seem like we're in trouble. We don't want to seem like it, but that facade is keeping you away from the healing that you need. Come on. To humiliate, to reduce someone to a lower position in someone's eyes or in others' eyes, to make someone ashamed or embarrassed, to cause to experience a state of self-conscious distress, to place in doubt, perplexity, or difficulties, to involve in financial difficulties, to hamper the movement of, to hinder, to complicate. So embarrassment is the painful but important emotional state. Most researchers believe that its purpose is to make people feel badly about their social or personal mistakes as a form of internal or societal feedback so they don't err again. But guess what? You live in fantasy. This is Tupac. You live in fantasy and I reject your deposit. A fake life will never produce what's real. And I'm convinced most of the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, they're not real. You're not real until you can be embarrassed and still have your head up. You're not real till you know what you're dealing with and you can be transparent about who you are. Because guess what? Nobody's opinion can downgrade you. When you believe that, guess what? God loves you and He has the best in store for you, and He allowed you to go through trials and tribulations so He can mend that heart. When you believe that, you're not moved by other people's opinions. When you humble yourself, you know God gonna exalt you in due time. The problem is we trying to avoid the humiliation. We trying to avoid the embarrassment. Okay? We trying to avoid that. We're trying to hide. Okay? Hide means to be put out of sight, be in secret, to conceal for protection, to keep secret, to screen from, to be obscure, to turn somebody's eyes or face away, to remain out of sight, to seek protection or evade responsibility. And so, watch this. People tell on themselves all the time. What they try to hide the most, they tell on themselves all the time. Let me tell you why. Because pressure busts pipes. Let me explain the word expression. It means to force out by pressure. And so people's expression when they go through something, it's forcing out what's on the inside by pressure. God allows this to happen, okay? Because He gives grace to the humble. He gives you a divine ability to come out. But as long as you're pretending, you're not coming out. You're going to stay in that situation until you humble yourself. Even if you hurt, because these principles won't be violated. If you're not willing to say I'm hurt and I need help, then guess what? You're going to stay in your state. That's just as simple as I can get it. Come on. Lies are to cause doubt as much as truth causes belief. The common denominator is what you believe. They may sound like a bit twisted, but our belief system that produces conscious or subconscious actions. Watch this. If the mind has accepted that something is impossible to do, the brain won't release any chemicals to create a desire to attempt to do it. Therefore, no action can take place because the mind hasn't accepted it as impossible. Oh my gosh. So there's mental warfare here involved in overcoming self-doubt. There was an old cartoon I used to watch, G.I. Joe, and there was a phrase saying, knowing is half the battle. Knowing is finding out the possibility, right? Knowing is exposure. Until you are exposed to the possibilities of something, you can never make a well-informed decision. So the social world, the media world, the musical world, the political world, they all have a specific program to hijack your mind. So they don't want you to have any individuality. Their entire system and mission is geared towards making you choose a side. I can remember going through in the 90s, man, wanting to rock cross colors and wear my clothes backwards because I saw Chris Cross do it. And then a couple years later, I'm walking soldier rags and fatigues because I want to be a hot boy, right? It's been said that the human mind is the easiest thing to hack, and honestly, I believe that statement to be true. It's the easiest way to hijack the person's mind is to first expose them to something that the majority deems popular. The peer pressure will begin to cause the individual to feel the necessity to choose a side, fall in the crowd or become the oddball. This is why we have to deal with embarrassment. Okay? Honest moment. Everyone does not start on even ground. I will dive into that in another topic, but just because the odds may be against you, you don't be against you. All right? Man, embarrassment is an experience that makes you self-consciously distressed. Humiliation is the feeling of being less than you once were due to that experience. The two work hand in hand. Humiliation produces embarrassment, and it's all psychological warfare on the mind. Okay? So when things happen that make you feel embarrassed, if your instantaneous decision is to try to hide the embarrassment, then a lot of times you're afraid of what might be said behind what happened. But watch this. The real problem is we subconsciously care so much about what other people think. The influences of the world are pressuring us to act a certain way, feel a certain way, think a certain way, behave a certain way, just to feel normal. And when our subconscious mind can adopt the mentality that humiliation and embarrassment is bad and failure is bad, then we will try to avoid it at all costs. And we will focus on setting our attention on trying to enhance our exterior, our outer appearance, and suppress our interior, our inner person of the soul. So that's just saying like this. We'll preoccupy ourselves with external things just to hide how we feel the condition of our soul is in. Okay? And so what I'm doing today is, hey, I want to address that, because true healing can't take place until you come into a place of honesty. And as long as you're trying to hide, it'll never change. Like I said, in a couple of rounds ago, I said, guess what? Trauma will cause you to experience arrested development. Meaning, wherever that hurt is and whatever you stop talking and expressing, whatever that is, then you'll start experiencing a stop of growth. So you can grow. Remember, when you go through the trauma, you experience arrested development, meaning whatever the hurt was, or whenever the hurt was, rather, when you're unable to communicate what's going on or where the pain is, and you develop a split psyche, right? We talked about this. You're developing a personality that hides the hurt to feel okay around others. And this is actually called affectation. And And what it means is speech or conduct that is not natural to oneself. It's an unnatural form of behavior meant to impress others. It's an act of taking on or displaying an attitude or a mode of behavior that is not natural, it's not genuine. And so you see this so often, especially now. Some of the most creative, artistic, talented people are just so talented because they're so hurt. If you watch these videos of these artists' life, even DMX just passed away, and you see the story behind his mother putting him in these boys' homes when he was young and abandoned him, and he having to live and the way he lived, and so much hurt that he experienced. To the extent of that, we see the talent. We see out of the hurt and pain, we see so much talent and ability. But a lot of that, it comes from the deficit of hurt and the cover up, trying to seem like you're okay. The most talented people are the hurt the most. And so the trauma arrests the development of the injured party, and they begin to live a life of deficit. The pain internalizes and it becomes unbearable and escapable. So to avoid having to deal with the feelings associated with the hurt, it is easy to become preoccupied with the superficial and manufactured cover-ups. Trauma produces insecurity, and insecurity hides behind a sense of self. This is one of the main reasons for the spike of alcohol abuse, drug abuse, suicide. It's an overcompensation for the deficit. All right, this is the major disconnect of society today. And like I said before, Tupac said, "You live in fantasy and I reject your deposit." This means that you're depositing that which is artificial and expecting to withdraw something authentic. The life that you live is nothing more than a facade, and it's impossible to cope in your current situation if you never deal with what caused the current situation in the first place. Hurt is attractive. Some wounds are so deep for some people that they gain the whole world just to fill the void, and it still ain't enough. The relation of hurt causes us to become wound mates with people we don't even know. If we identify with a person's story, we develop an instant bond with the hurt that may cause the connection for life. This is why culture loves to see rags to riches stories. The entertainment is engineered to address our emotions. Once a picture is painted through the means of movies, it will emotionally stir us to the point of having us rooting for the underdog, subconsciously relating to their story, fantasizing about having the same opportunities as they had with the same results. Sad thing is, most of the heroes that are presented today are evil and killers, but are presented in such a way that we're supposed to root for them. This is why such a phenomenon, because it's easier to adopt someone's philosophy that looks like they have it all together and emulate what they do, rather for us to deal with our own hurts on a daily basis when there's no remedy. Fake don't produce real, ever. So, let's strip down every artificial and manufactured facade to the point that you have nothing to grasp to and hide behind. No fake hair and lashes, no tattoos, no jewelry, no muscles, no money, no cars, no houses, no clubs, no friends, no businesses, no family. Nothing but you, naked and by yourself. Who are you really? Aside from all the artificial world and the materials that you use to build the life that you're so familiar with, you are perceived to be nothing but the sum of your experiences, nothing but your memories. What can you boast about if you had nothing to add to your stature, your appearance, your lifestyle? If everything was stripped away from you all at once, the emotion you would instantly experience is shame. Shame is the unpleasant, self-conscious emotion typically associated with the negative evaluation of self. Withdrawal motivations and feelings of distress, exposure, mistrust, powerlessness, and worthlessness. Shame's reactions, expressions, sudden letdown, instantaneous tears, hanging to the head and running for cover, and still shocked. Readjusting how you see yourself and uncertainty about yourself. You gotta be willing to open up. I've been saying this the whole time. You gotta be willing to open up and be honest. How do I know though? Because I had to do it myself. Don't be afraid or be intimidated to reveal what's going on in your heart. The counsel of the heart of man is like deep waters, but a man of understanding will draw it out. That's Proverbs 20:5. And now, you know what you're dealing with. Now you know what you're dealing with. Now we get into the root of the matter. Now you know how to recognize your own life. This is everyone's biggest challenge that they have to face. Recognizing this area of my life, this is called being self-aware. Now I'm free enough emotion to express myself. This is no light thing because a man is always taught to be physically strong and show no weakness. But this is the way that I really gained my true strength. This was a mental challenge and battle like I've never faced before. But once I was willing to be able to face myself, face my fear, and face God, this freed me up. Now it doesn't matter how people feel about me. It doesn't even matter. I got a life of purpose, right? It doesn't matter if they like or dislike. It doesn't matter if they love or hate. It doesn't matter if they accept or reject. All I know is God accepted me. God loved me. And now I can love myself because he loved me. And now I can love my neighbor as myself. You see how this goes? When we begin to expose ourselves and be transparent, that freedom can produce freedom in other people's lives. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This suggests that a person's true identity is not defined by externals of life, looks, possession, etc., but by how they really feel or believe about themselves in their mind and heart. Oftentimes, we constantly wrestle internally with negative thoughts about ourselves without ever letting anyone know how we really feel. If you're anything like me, if I was asked how I was doing, I would automatically say I'm good or I'm straight, no matter how I was really feeling. I learned to bottle up all my pain deep down inside, but it killed my emotional expression. And the trade-off was a passive-aggressive and over-sexualized person. In simple terms, my nonchalant caused me to be unaware of how to respond correctly, adapting to habits that would create an atmosphere of hostility and constant sexual stimulation, meaning I had to constantly be stimulated by something to avoid how I was really feeling on the inside. This may be you. This may be you, and today we tearing away all the layers. Is there any wonder why all our entertainment is sex, drugs, and violence? Is it possible that our trauma is weaponized and only public escape is offered is the above mentioned vices? These vices only create a very base impulses. And as long as someone is in that cycle of feeding on these base impulses, they will never think logically, achieve anything honorably, or leave a path of destruction behind. Okay, due to childhood trauma, there are a lot of functioning, emotionally underdeveloped adults that exist all around us. Let me show you how you can identify them. Irritable, quick-tempered, argumentative, hostile, opinionated, never happy or satisfied. Despairs on one side of the pendulum and pendulum angers on the other side. Society has done its best to create a narcissistic, victimized culture where no one wants to be accountable for their actions, but as soon as someone points out their own toxicity, instead of making a conscious effort to change, they will only play the victim and attempt to win the next person over with their woe is me stories. Bottling it all up will never answer, because you'll suffer arrested development. I use the word suffer because suffering means to be forced to endure or undergo or feel pain and distress and to experience physical or mental pain. And so when you're dealing with arrested development, you're physically and mentally strained every day. And I'm offering solutions today. I'm telling you, just point blank period. This is what you have to do. You have to be honest. You have to open up your mouth. You have to say, I'm humbling myself to say, I am going through this and I need help. You can reach out to me in the comments, or you can reach out to me via the email or call me. Let's have productive, open, transparent conversations. This is the only way that we're going to experience healing in these areas of our life. All right. Arrested development forces an individual during hardships of dealing with life immaturely. I have personally experienced the hardships of not knowing how to positively respond. What this means is when you're living life immaturely, you're making life-altering decisions immaturely. That means that people are affected by the decisions that you're making immaturely. I've done it. Things that I should have been focused on and should have been caring about because of nonchalant. Remember, that means mediocre. It means unconcerned. So the things that you should be focusing on and the things that should matter the most, you're unconcerned with. But you are preoccupied with nonsense on a consistent basis. You can never run away from your problems that you face because eventually you'll realize you can never outrun yourself. And when you can't outrun yourself any longer, you try to run away within. Everything you do from that point is just to numb the pain that you feel, and it's only another attempt to run. This will force you to suppress the person that was hurt, and this means you're going to have to ask somebody for some help. That's what this means. And I'm going to tell you something. Your help comes from unconventional means. So expect the unexpected. There is no time for preference when you're in need of healing. So be willing to open up. Don't be afraid or be intimidated to reveal what's going on in your heart. So I'm going to close right now. I know this is one of your biggest challenges. I know this personally. I know that this is in front of your purpose. This is the fight that we're identifying. This right here. And it's going to take a stripping down. And the thing about it is, if you humble yourself, God have mercy on you right where you are. But if you live in pride and act like these things don't apply to you, then guess what? Those things will create a situation around you where it's going to humble you. So that's the trade-off. You can either say, okay, this is me, I need help, or you can say, this don't apply to me. And then you're going to make decisions and you're going to reap what you sow, and it's going to create that prison where you're going to be stuck and have to deal with it in a worse situation than you are in right now. And so I'm going to encourage you today. This is the Fight Club. And I just thank God that I'm built for this. I'm built for this. I'm built for this. I've had to go through it myself, and I'm built for this. These type of situations. These are hard and messy situations. Ain't nothing clean about this. But guess what? God loves us enough that he'll get down in the dirt with us just to bring us out, right? He'll get down in the dirt. So we face ourselves, face our fears, and face God. And this is most definitely facing yourself and facing your fears. This is most definitely it. But this is a day of healing. This is the day that, guess what, you can declare, I'm coming out of this thing. And I ain't gonna prolong it no longer. Look, man, I'm Jared. Hey, listen, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you be updated on all future videos and content. If you like to support the Fight Club, you can do it by copping some merch, man. Fight Club t-shirts, my Fight Club store, the link will be below. Or you can sow into the ministry. It's $Fight Club now. All the proceeds will go right back into creating content and getting right back into opportunities to go into mental hospitals and jails and places where maybe nobody else wants to go. I'm willing. And if you need a keynote speaker for your next event, whether it be church, school, or a mental facility or your business, hey, listen, we do workshops talking about some of the said topics above. And if you want to support also, you can purchase my book, Honestly, Keys to Building Lasting Relationships, where I talk about some of these issues that I personally went through myself in ways that God kind of navigated me and helped me out, and so I could stand in front of you today. So until the next time, I hope I didn't forget nothing. Until the next time, face yourself, face your fears, and face God. Man, we fight for our lives and help others fight for theirs. Listen, I'm Jared. This is the Fight Club. God bless you.